What's going on, everybody? Andrew Gombis here to break down for you the main event of UFC 266. We've got Alexander Volkanovski defending his title against Brian T. City Ortega. Currently, the line sits at about Volkanovski minus 175, minus 180. Brian Ortega, you could get him around plus 145, plus 155 in that range. Yeah, Volkanovski, who's coming into this fight, 22-1 as a pro, which is incredible. He's 32 years old. He's on a crazy winning streak right now. His last two wins have been against Max Holloway, who a lot of people have pretty high on their pound-for-pound list. He won both those fights by unanimous decision. Volkanovski is a really well-rounded fighter. We've seen that. We've seen him against all different types of fighters. We've seen him against Max Holloway, who's a volume striker. We've seen him against Chad Mendes, who is a wrestler. We've seen him against Jose Aldo. We've really seen him do it all here. He's taken on Brian Ortega, who's 15-1 as a pro, also very impressive. We haven't seen a ton of Brian Ortega lately. At 30 years old now, we saw him once fight in 2020, about a year ago, against Korean Zombie. He ended up winning that fight by unanimous decision. A lot of people were saying we saw a new version of T-City in that fight. I'm not so sure. I think he hurt TKZ early in that fight, and it kind of changed the dynamic. I'm sure he's made improvements, but I still think at the end of the day, you're getting a guy who pretty much relies on finishes to win fights. His striking metrics aren't great. His stats aren't great. I'm typically not big into stats, but it's impossible not to notice the stats on this one, with Volkanovski just looking like the much better minute winner. Ortega obviously has that crazy good offensive jiu-jitsu. He's super aggressive with it. In this fight, I don't really see him having the wrestling to get the fight to the ground, to implement his jiu-jitsu. So I think his most likely win path here is hurting Volkanovski on the feet with something big and then jumping on the neck or finishing via KO. I think Volkanovski, much better technical striker here. I see him landing a lot of leg kicks. He landed over 60 leg kicks, which is a ton, against Max Holloway in both their fights. I think he landed 63 and 75 leg kicks, if I'm remembering that correctly. If not, it's something similar. But I think he's going to chew that lead leg of Ortega up. And like I said, I think Ortega needs to hit him with something big on the feet to get this win. Is it possible? Yeah. Is it similar to what's implied right now on the odds? I don't think so. I think Volkanovski should be a wider favorite here. Actually, a much wider favorite. I bet him big at minus 155. I still think there's value on him at minus 175, minus 180. Ortega probably is going to have to hurt him on the feet, which is something that Max Holloway couldn't do over 10 rounds, which is something that Jose Aldo couldn't do, which is something that Chad Mendes couldn't do. Like I said, it's possible. It's MMA over 5 rounds. Ortega can crack. He's not a great technical striker, but he does have power. So like I said, it can happen. I just don't think it happens at a very high clip. Maybe 25% chance outcome. So I have to favor Volkanovski to win this fight. I could see him winning via KO. I could see him winning by decision. I think he's going to start to chew that lead leg up early, get out to a lead with volume. And I eventually, if I have to pick, honestly, I'm picking him to win by finish. I think he's the much better overall fighter. I think he's way better in the striking, technique-wise, levels ahead. And like I said, we haven't seen a ton of Brian Ortega outside of the Korean Zombie fight, so it's hard to tell. But I have to go with what I've seen on tape and in that Korean Zombie fight, outside of Ortega hurting him early. Just a little tidbit in that fight. Korean Zombie said afterwards that once he got rocked, he has no memory of the rest of the fight. So he was pretty much fighting as a corpse, really. And I think a lot of people are putting too much credence into that performance from Ortega, talking about how he's this new invented fighter. Like I said, at the end of the day, he probably has made improvements, but he's still the same guy. So my pick is Alexander Volkanovski. I like him to win inside the distance. I think the under 4.5 at plus money is not a bad spot. I haven't bet it yet because I'm so big on Volkanovski. Don't want to dilute that too much. But yeah, the pick's Volkanovski. The bet is Volkanovski. Just to touch on some housekeeping items real quick. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Bets and Picks MMA. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, where you get access to all my premium betting content, that is linked in the description. And what that is I make a bet, I enter it into Bet MMA, I post it on my Patreon immediately after, so you guys can bet it at the exact same price as I do. And another thing is I started working for Sportsline lately. Sportsline is an awesome site or an app, depending if you're on your phone or your computer, that provides betting content in every sport, and they recently hired me as their MMA analyst. So just for $1 a month, if you use the promo code FIGHT, you can get a first month is for $1 only. Great site. I use it to help myself bet NFL and MLB. You guys can get access there to my 3 or 4 best money line bets of every card. The article comes out once a week. So the pro of that is the pro of Sportsline is you get all the other sports that come with it. The con is that you might not get the exact same odds that I do. You don't get access to my prop bets, and you don't get access to my bets of other organizations like LFA, PFL, stuff like Contender Series, stuff like that. So if you're super into MMA betting, want the best lines possible, check out my Patreon. If you are into sports betting in general and you want access to some of my betting content along with a plethora of other sports betting content, get Sportsline. Use the promo code FIGHT. And yeah, if you guys can like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Trying to put out at least a video a week on my own. And now that I'm doing the Early Edge podcast with Sportsline too, that's another good one. Hopefully you guys check that out as well. But again, if you're betting on the fights this weekend, hit me up. If not, just sit back and enjoy them. It should be a great card, top to bottom. We have the return of Nick Diaz, which everyone's pumped about. Merab versus Moraes is a great fight. Got Jalen Turner versus Uros Medic. Curtis Blades versus Jairzinho Rosenstreich. So got a great card on our hands. Yeah, let me know who you guys think is going to win between Volkanovski and Ortega in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you think TCD could catch him with something? Do you think I'm off with the fact that with the opinion that Ortega is going to have a tough time winning a decision here? Anyway, either way, let me know. Appreciate you guys joining me. Appreciate everyone who likes and subscribes and who supports me. I've gotten a ton of love over the past few weeks since I started with Sportsline, so I really do appreciate that. Enjoy the night and enjoy the fights.